There are more than a few ways to memorize a list. The problem is that some lists are bad lists and some lists are good lists. And there are good ways to memorize bad lists and there are bad ways to memorize good lists. That's what we're going to talk about today to make sure that you have the right balance. One way to get that balance is to use the most important and powerful memory technique for rapidly memorizing any kind of list, not just for the short term, but for the long term. And due to the incredible nature of how this special technique works, you'll also be able to deal with multi-factor pieces of information for the long term. So if it's names and dates on the list, you'll be able to deal with that with this life-enhancing skill. But I want to dive into memorizing a list by starting with some of the simpler list memorization techniques and really give you a little bit of a mini masterclass on the different ways that you can do list memorization. So the first and most simple structured strategy that I can think of is to have something like a number rhyme list. And number rhymes are really quite simple. What you do is you have an image for each number that rhymes with the number. So 0 is a hero, 1 is a bun, 2 is a shoe, 3 is a bee, 4 is a door, and on and on. So putting 0 aside, let's say number 1 on your list is lettuce. Well, if 1 is a bun, you can have a bun attacking the lettuce. And now that is a link that helps you remember that number 1 is lettuce. And if it's 2 as a shoe and then you want to remember carrots, well, you can have carrot-shaped shoes or whatever, running down the highway. And if the third thing is spaghetti and 3 is a bee, you can have bumblebees carrying spaghetti. And essentially you're using two kinds of linking at once. The numbers are linked to a rhyme, and then the rhymes are imagistic in nature, so those images are now linked to the items on your list. It's a very, very simple one to do. There's a variation on this, which is a number-shaped list. And in this case, rather than a rhyme, 0 is linked with a donut, which doesn't rhyme, and 1 is a candle, 2 is a swan, etc. This is a technique taught in Mystery of the Magnetic Numbers, which is the first memory detective novel. It'll be coming out eventually, so stay tuned for that. It's for parents to help with their kids being able to remember lists of numbers or just numbers, period, and it can apply to times tables, etc. But that's a variation on number rhymes, number shapes. And it's a pathway into much more complex techniques. So if you need a place to start, remembering a to-do list with groceries or whatever it is that you need to do can be just that simple. Because if it's a carrot, you can have a candle attacking the carrot for the first item on your list. And if it's lettuce, and then you can have a swan eating the lettuce and doing something exaggerated, flipping its beak around and lettuce is going crazy. At the end of the day, get started with one of those techniques, even if you're already advanced. I use those techniques from time to time. I don't use number rhymes that much, but I do use number shape techniques quite a bit. We'll talk more about the good list, bad list dynamic in a moment. And if you're new here and you like this kind of information, including beginner level techniques like number rhymes and number shapes, make sure to hit that thumbs up for the love of memory and get subscribed so you don't miss a thing, because this mission is about making everybody's memory as strong as possible and magnetic in the sense that you're able to stick what you want to learn in place in your memory, but also have techniques that push distractions away. That's what the Magnetic Memory Method is all about. So I hope you will join us and make everybody's life better because you're a beacon of light and learning in this world. Now, my absolute favorite way to memorize lists is cool because it actually lets you memorize lists in all kinds of orders and recite them out of order. Now, technically, you can do that with the techniques that I've already shared. In fact, there's a really amazing demonstration in a Penguin Magic lecture by Sal Piacente, who is an amazing mnemonist, and you should get that lecture and watch it on Penguin Magic. It's just phenomenal. And he'll see how that he uses those kinds of techniques to do astonishing demonstrations and be able to recite things out of order. Because let's say you have 10 is a hen in your number rhyme system, and the 10th item on your list is borscht. And now you have a Porsche car-shaped bowl of borscht that is being attacked by a hen, right? Well, you know it's the 10th item because the hen rhymes with 10. So you can recite it out of order. But what if the list is a list of words in a foreign language that you're trying to remember, and you don't really need to remember the order, but you still need to know the order of how they work in a sentence? Well, this is where the memory palace technique is very, very powerful. And if you're not familiar with this mnemonic device, here's why this ancient tool is so useful. Anytime you need to memorize a list of any kind of information, and it's basically a form of mental association where you place a list of information pieces along a journey you assign within a familiar location. So you've probably seen the technique used in Sherlock Holmes when the iconic character says, "I must go to my mind palace." So if you were Sherlock and you had to commit a list of facts about a crime case to memory, you would study the facts, identify a few places in a memory palace where you can store each part of the list, each fact, and then when you needed to remember the name of a suspect or a clue, you would think back to the chair and you would say, "Oh, that's where I placed the name of this suspect." And then you would think back to a bed and you would say, "That's where I left the clue," and then you are able to reconstruct everything. Or if you're learning a language and you know that, one of the declensions for that language is whatever it is, amo, amas. No, that's a conjugation. I'm sorry. Magnus, magni, that's a declension in Latin. If you're trying to work back what all that sort of stuff is, well, that list is in a memory palace, and you can just go back to where you place the items. It's very, very powerful. Now, listen, it is a little bit for some people to learn, but at the end of the day, when you're memorizing all kinds of information that has to be used in all kinds of different orders, you don't want to be thinking about number rhymes, and you don't want to be thinking about swans and sailboats for the number 4. It's totally unnecessary to use number rhymes or number shapes, but you can. It's just that the memory palace allows you to remove all of that. Why? Because the journey that you create through the familiar location is the ultimate link. It's a link that's based in what you already know about space. And then you're just jumping towards association. So if it's the names of presidents and it's Washington, well, now you have a washing machine and it weighs a ton and it's breaking your bed in the memory palace. Those associations now are stuck to your memory palace, and you won't forget this because that washing machine really weighed a ton, so it must have been Washington that you placed there. There's no swan because it's on the 2nd station in your memory palace. There's no hive because it was on the 5th station, because 5 rhymes with hive. You're just going straight for gold, and you're basing it on spatial memory, which is one of the strongest assets that our minds have. So I really, really love the memory palace for that reason. Now, sometimes people say, yes, but that's still going to cause me to have to recite things in order. And the reality is you could use the memory palace technique to be able to memorize things out of order. But when we are reciting things in a foreign language, for example, like a sentence, well, a sentence is a list of the words in that sentence. If you have to recite a paragraph from memory, every sentence in that paragraph is the list of the sentences in that paragraph. So that's one level of understanding that I think will really help you not worry about lists being a limitation. They're actually the answer, because everything you ever recite will be recited in time, and it will be recited from now until now in the future. So if I am memorizing a poem, which I do often, and one that I've been memorizing recently, loops on bold fonts now form lots of words for books. Books form cocoons of comfort, tombs to hold bookworms. That is just a list of words in sentences. And then I said more than one sentence in my recitation just now, and so I recited a list of sentences. And what I did in order to get that into long-term memory, and I can tell you those sentences out of order, is I used a memory palace to lay out the words, and then I revisited them forward and backward from the middle to the end, from the middle to the beginning, and then I skipped the words. So instead of loops on bold fonts, I would go loops, bold, now, and go out of order. And that gives primacy and recency effect to each and every word in the sentence in the list. So anyone can learn how to do this. It's very, very advanced, of course, but here's the thing that I find is the most challenging for most people. You got to gather the information that you want to memorize in the best order. Now, sometimes the order of the items is clear. However, if you're studying for an exam and it's human anatomy or it has to do with medicinal side effects and so forth, you need to think how you're going to bring the information into the best order for yourself. Now, when I've helped people learn lists of anatomy, I don't necessarily know what I would do if I was a medical student because I'm not a medical student. But basically, I've been asked, what about the carpal bones? And I think, how can I turn that into a list? And one thing I have done is looked here and go, okay, so here's the scaphoid, which can also be called the navicular, I believe. And next to that is the lunate and the triangular, I think, and the pisiform and the hamate and the capitate. And I think it's trapezium and trapezoid. Might be the other way around. But at the end of the day, that is a list. It's just now that the list has a little bit of a turnaround. And I can also practice reciting these things in a different order. So in effect, the wrist now becomes the memory palace. And if I have to add, I think a muscle here, roundabout, is called extensor pollicis brevis. If I have to add that, well, do I add it to the list or do I just now make a new list of other stuff? You have options. It's really up to you. And anatomy is one thing. It's got its own challenges for sure. But at the end of the day, remember, you're going to be doing this in time. And your recitation on the test in the exam is going to unfold in time. So all that really matters is that you use the memory palace technique in order to recite the list in your practice forward, backward, from the middle to the end, from the middle to the beginning, and then skip the stations. That's going to get it into long-term memory, and later you'll be able to recall it even without thinking about the order, because it will be in long-term memory. This is such a key principle in the magnetic memory method, and I hope that you will keep that in mind. You really, really, really want to focus on those principles and not worry about how are you going to do this and do that. As long as you optimize the information in a way that you cheerfully show up to memorize it in memory palaces and then follow those patterns, you'll remember it because it will be in long-term memory. That's the goal. Now, before we get into this good list, bad list dynamic, I want to invite you to get a fuller tutorial on lists that I put together, which has a quite substantial FAQ section that goes into more granular detail that will be especially useful for people who have to memorize lots of lists of lots of things. So if you would like to get that, follow the link in the description or on the screen, and it's going to help you tremendously. And if you're listening on the podcast, it's magneticmemorymethod.com/list. And the message that I wanted to share with you about good lists and bad lists is that I often find that people ask me about lists that are maybe bad in my biased perspective. So people say, well, I want to remember a shopping list. And I often think, well, why? When you could just jot it out on a piece of paper and save the memory palace technique, for example, for higher order information. Sometimes my wife laughed at me because I didn't use the memory techniques when I'm sent off to the grocery store. But I used the time to go to the grocery store to recite Sanskrit that I was memorizing that was deeply meaningful for me. So yeah, I might look like a little bit of a fool and not exactly like a memory master. But I was doing memory mastery of the highest order thing. I was focusing on the list that mattered to me above all. That said, you could make the memorization of a grocery store list that I'm kind of poo-pooing a little bit. And I know I don't mean to sound arrogant or anything like that. It's totally fine. It is a good thing to do if that's where you're at. But you could make it a little bit more robust by memorizing that list in a foreign language. Because now, not only are you memorizing a list of what you need to buy at the grocery store, but you're learning a language. So you're habit stacking, and that is going to get you more out of your mind and your memory. It's going to get you more challenge, and you're going to learn at least a little bit of another language, which connects you to different cultures. And it's just so fantastic what can happen for the brain when you try to get more out of the memorization of lists. All right, so I've got my mega tutorial for you with a big, massive Q&A all about questions that you probably have never even thought to ask about how to memorize a list, which you can grab now. But I want to address those people for whom the Memory Palace technique is either right now too challenging or something you're just not attracted to. There is a way to offload the items on your list to travel those patterns mentally that I talked about, forward and backward from beginning to end, middle to end, and skipping the stations. And it's called the Leitner Method or using a Leitner box. So if you would like to explore that, stick around and watch on YouTube or search it up if you're listening to the podcast about the Leitner Method. And the whole thing is super genius. And I still use it sometimes. And I just will, when I'm tired, get information on cards. And often I'll still have them in memory palaces, but sometimes I'm so tired I can't even navigate the memory palaces. I will use the cards to have a navigational pattern anyway. And it's very, very powerful. I highly recommend it to everyone. So treat the memorization of lists as more than a skill. It's a way of connecting with the function of information in the world, its nature, how it operates, how that it relates to time, and how that you can change yourself, essentially. Because chances are there's a list of things that you need to be doing in order to become a better person in this world, whether it's a better brother, father, sister, uncle, citizen of your town, city, country, etc. Those to-do list items are something that your brain will probably be much more likely to prioritize if you put them in a memory palace in the form of a list and associate each and every one, not with number rhymes, not with number shapes, not even with the memory palaces themselves per se, but with empowering images that make you feel really happy and really good. And this is very, very simple to do. You pick one location that you have very positive associations with. It can be a school, it can be a church, it can be a bookstore, it can be a cafe, and then you take the first item on your list of what you know you could do right now to become a better person, and then you associate it with a happy memory, either a memory of another person who really inspired you or a time when you did match that ideal. Then you pick the next spot in that happy memory palace and that next item that you know is on your bucket list that you need to attend to in order to be your best possible self, and you wrap that up with a positive memory, a positive association, a person whom you admire, and you move on and you get together everything that's on that list. Keep it simple, 5 to 10 things, and then when you are feeling down or you're feeling like you're procrastinating or whatever, make an effort to go back to that list in your mind and get working on one of those items. And if you feel like that's impossible, your level of skill is not such that you're just going to randomly pop into memory palaces, especially this kind of memory palace, which, like the Spider-Man logic says, with great power comes great responsibility. So you might shirk away from it because you're like, yes, I will become more powerful. I don't want the responsibility. Well, you do want the responsibility. Trust me, you'll feel much, much better in this life. If you feel like you're not going to be able to just pop randomly into memory palaces like that, get a big old piece of paper and write it out and stick it on your wall where you see it every day. You can mind map it. You can make a treasure map like I talk about in my book, The Victorious Mind. Whatever it is that you do, work on you, because whether you memorize lists or not, each and every moment is being added to someone's list or the list that you could have been on or whatever. I'm not making an argument for this or that spirit in the sky. All I'm saying is that time is ticking on and each slice of it belongs to the list of reality. And your reality can be very, very magnetic indeed. So thanks for watching. Go ahead, get that special that I have for you about lists and the massive FAQ, and watch my Leitner box training. And until we have a chance to speak again, keep yourself magnetic.